President Biden is headed to the battleground state of Ohio today. He's all in on his big midterm election blitz now. Speech after speech, as you know, he's been touting what he says are his administration's accomplishments, but apparently no time for any mainstream American journalists, reporters, anchors, nobody on the ground, no time for them. The president has not done a one-on-one sit-down interview in 210 days. Not to mention, he's only given 23 formal interviews during the entire time he's been in office. The White House was on defense, I should say, about this yesterday.
The president loves talking to you all. He takes your questions all the time. As you know, he does it multiple times during the week. I don't have a sit-down interview to announce or provide or schedule at this time.
And she does the bird voice. Oh, no, you're protesting much. Marc Thiessen, Fox News contributor, former White House speechwriter and columnist for The Washington Post. I am so curious to know whether the basement strategy with news anchors and reporters will work like the basement strategy did with the American people when this man was running for president.
He certainly thinks it will. I mean, he's running the same strategy. It's change the subject from him to Donald Trump and hide in the basement and don't answer any tough questions. I mean, look, it's obvious why he's doing this is because he wants all of us to be talking about MAGA Republicans and Donald Trump. And you can do that if you're giving speeches. You can do that if you in a couple of shouted questions here or there from reporters. But you can't do that if you do a sit-down interview. Then you have to confront the disastrous record that you've unleashed. You have to explain why do we have the worst inflation in 4 decades? Why have we had the worst collapse in real wages in 40 years? Why do we have the worst crime wave since the 1990s? The worst border crisis in American history? The highest gas prices on record? The highest increase in food prices since 1979? And why, in the midst of an energy crisis, we just learned this week, the lowest number of oil and gas leases since World War II? Those are tough questions that he doesn't want to have to answer because he just wants to shout MAGA, MAGA, MAGA from the stage where he can't get asked about it.
Well, and, you know, he's not going to want to sit down with you after that because those are all the big questions. but have you noticed, even in the White House press briefing room, that other reporters outside of Fox are going after the list that you just named? Now, maybe not everybody in the room, but enough other voices now that there is no dodging this.
Yeah, well, I mean, Karine Jean-Pierre can't dodge it, though she certainly struggles to answer those questions.
It's not in the binder.
He can dodge it by not talking. Yeah, exactly. She has a binder for everything. But I mean, you know, for example, like he's going out and talking about his student loan forgiveness. If you sat down for an interview, you'd have to explain, for example, answer the question, why should working class Americans pay the graduate school loans of doctors, lawyers, and Wall Street bigwigs? You'd have to ask, where did you get the authority to spend up to $1 trillion in taxpayer money without authorization from Congress? Why are you using a law, the HEROES Act, that, you know, we have the anniversary of September 11th coming up this weekend, that was passed after 9/11 to make sure that people who were called up to active duty didn't default on their loans, and using that as a pretext to forgive the loans of people who never served? These are questions that Joe Biden either doesn't want to answer or can't answer, and so the best way to do it is to just not take the question.
Well, you put it perfectly. Why? Because that would force him to, if he doesn't know the answer, that's just poor performance and preparation. But what could the answer be? Would it be politics? And that's going to look really ugly coming out of his mouth, too. But at least it would be transparent, potentially. All right, we'll move on. It looks like the message might be getting through. Sanctuary city leaders in Washington, D.C. now taking action. Texas Governor Abbott and Arizona Governor Ducey giving their nation's capital the tiniest taste of what their border communities have been facing and continue to. Here's a breakdown of the numbers of illegal immigrants bused to blue cities so far. Chicago, 5 buses carrying roughly 300 illegal immigrants. New York City, 40 buses carrying 2,200. Washington, D.C., 190 buses, nearly 8,000 illegal immigrants from Texas and other 1,700 from Arizona. D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser has declared a public emergency after the Pentagon twice refused her request for National Guard assistance. Let's watch, and then I'll come right back to you, Mark.
Regardless of the federal response, which I think has been lacking in some respects, that the District of Columbia would continue to work with our partners to advance what we need and to make sure that our systems in D.C. are not broken by a crisis that is certainly not of our making.
Oh, wait, a crisis not of their making. A Democrat D.C. council member also pointing the finger. Watch.
The governors of Texas and Arizona have created this crisis. The governors of Texas and Arizona have turned us into a border town. We don't know how long this will take to resolve. We don't know how long they will continue busing. The federal government has not stepped up to assist the District of Columbia, so we, along with our regional partners, will do what we've always done. We'll rise to the occasion.
They are not real leaders. Not a one of them. Not a one of them. Not Mayor Adams here in New York City. Not a one of them, Mark, has acknowledged the fact that now we know kind of what they've been dealing with and tried to shine any kind of spotlight on what's happening in the border.
Yeah, so she said that D.C. is a border town. Not even close. You add up all the numbers you just showed on the screen there of the number of migrants that have been bused to New York and Chicago and Washington. That's about the same as Eagle Pass, Texas gets in a week. In a week.
Yes.
That's over 4 or 5 months that they've gotten those people. They're not a border town. And the governors have created this crisis? No. Joe Biden created this crisis. He created this crisis by getting rid of the Remain in Mexico policy. He created this crisis by getting rid of these safe third country agreements with the Central American countries that required migrants to apply for asylum in the first safe country they reach. He created this crisis by eliminating deportations. And he's making the crisis worse by pushing to get rid of Title 42. All the governors of Texas and Arizona are doing is saying, we're not going to bear this burden alone. And, you know, one of the big problems we have, Harris, in this country is that the elites in cities like New York and Washington don't ever feel the impact of the disaster of the policies that they impose on the rest of the country. And all Governor Abbott is doing is saying, Texas ain't bearing this problem alone. You're going to feel it in Washington, D.C., too. And good for him for doing that.
All right, Marc Thiessen on a Friday. So great to have you kick us off in Focus. Thank you very much.
Thank you.